Hi everyone, it's Sam, NFTstatistics, and this is your Proof Daily NFT Countdown. Last day from Maine, doing it from inside today though because it's raining outside. A lot of good stuff to talk about today with Sam Spratt and some not so great stuff to talk about with PEPE down about 18%. The NFT complex though is rallying for the first time in a while. A lot of NFT floor prices up 5, 10, even 15%. Let's get right into it. Starting off with a quick market overview. Volumes were still low. Not a whole lot of movement in the volume chart. Again, I don't think volumes matter too much because most of the volume tends to be people dumping into Blur bids. But if you look at the volume that we had today, so far today, there's been about 1,500 to 2,000 ETH of volume on Blur. And only about 40%, less than 40% is people dumping into bids when it comes to total ETH volume. That's the lowest that ratio has been going back to May 1st. So it's been about 4 months since we've had this kind of ratio for people picking the NFTs they like and buying them relative to people dumping into bids. In terms of market share, Blur was around 61%. So Blur market share does seem to be going down a little bit. And I just think there's a little bit less farming, not a whole lot less farming, but a little bit less farming. And as a result, you're just seeing a little bit less of kind of the trades where people pass NFTs back and forth. Large cap index, you can sort of see it here, up a small bit, actually up a decent amount. You had a huge rally in DGODs, a big rally in Azuki, as well as Captains. Bored Ape Yacht Club ecosystem, Bored Apes have gone from flirting with 22 ETH up to about 24 ETH. So a lot of strength across the complex. Milady is the one that's down 6%. And, a lot of the Milady gains, a lot of the people in Milady seem to really know the altcoin, the meme coin market very, very well. So when you see PEPE go down a fair bit, perhaps there's some relation there with the Milady weakness. In terms of mid caps, basically flat, up a touch, had some strength in VV Checks, Killabears, and Valhalla, and then some weakness in cyber brokers. One project I did want to talk about, Trump digital cards went from about 0.1 ETH to about 0.2 ETH. We have seen this a fair bit when something controversial happens with Donald Trump. In this case, the mugshot that came out from Georgia, a lot of his supporters like to rally and show their support. So you saw people buying the digital cards. And I think this is the second or third time where there was something adverse happened to Donald Trump and the price of the digital cards rallied. So interesting to see that. Starting to see a little bit of a trend there. Also, wins of Yawanawa. We talked about it earlier this week on the show. Completely on fire. Floor has gone from about 2 ETH at the beginning of August to 5 ETH now. Had a bunch of sales in the 4.5 ETH range. In terms of art trades, in our projects, mainly looking here at art blocks, there were 3 trades on the Harvest and 1 Chromie Squiggle trade. That's all that did more than 10 ETH of volume. Let's have a look. This Chromie Squiggle, I believe, is color spread 9. So the lower the color spread, the better they tend to trade. 12.7 ETH sale. This was actually in USDC, but converted to ETH. It's at 12.7. We have a construction token here by Jeff Davis, which sold for 2.7 ETH. This hero style screens by Thomas Lynn Peterson sold for 2 ETH. And then a Harvest sold for 8.8 ETH, well above floor, something like 3 times the floor. This dark background really makes it a grail, and that drove that higher pricing. Second thing to talk about, the Monument Game sale ends. Now, this is just the one of one that ended, and you started to see the passes trading on the open market. We have not yet seen which observations are going to be awarded the Skulls of Lucy, but let's have a quick look at what happened. The buyer of the Monument Game one of one was Ryan Zur, who spent 420.69 ETH. Just a massive sale, $700,000 in this market. I think, in this market, it is so hard to really get things to move. And Sam Spratt has solved that. I think it's very hard for a new piece on primary to be selling for 420 ETH. But Sam Spratt did it with this one of one. Here is a tweet from the buyer basically saying all the great things about Sam Spratt that people have been saying all week. A supernova artist whose career trajectory has been meteoric and accelerated by his generous support of psychedelic science. And he goes on and on about how important this piece is for NFTs. 10F1 Art, I believe, is kind of the fund or the shell through which he owns a lot of art. And that was the actual buyer here. Now, when looking at other Sam Spratt one of ones, just how big of a sale is this? This was 420. This piece in the upper left, bought by Cosimo de Medici, was the first Sam Spratt one of one, sold for 50 ETH. He said sales of 72, 115, 155. Tons of beautiful work. I believe this was the 9th one of one sale. And he really is strategic and does it in, I think, a really kind of steady but measured pace. So this is the 9th. I believe he only really released one over the past 6 to 9 months. But yeah, just a lot of beautiful art. And clearly this, more than 2x his prior all-time high. Looking at the Monument Game passes, the observation passes, the additions of 256, the floor is right now around 4 ETH. It says here around 3.8, but there have been a bunch of buys pushing it up to 4 ETH. I think the bid is around 3.2 on Blur. So you've had a bunch of sales kind of in that 3.7 to 4.3 ETH range. So well above the 3.33 ETH mint price. It'll be interesting to see what happens after the 3 winners of the observations are decided on Sunday. Because right now you might be holding on to your pass to see if you win those observations. The 3 of them are going to be awarded Skulls of Lucy, but we've certainly seen, a ton of buying demand in the marketplace already. This says 37 ETH of volume. I think we're up to about 50 ETH of volume at this point. Here are a bunch of the sales that have happened. You can see them ranging from, like I said, 3.7 ETH all the way up to about 4.35 ETH. So congrats to Sam, congrats to the buyers, and congrats to people who own those who own those passes and were able to sell them at a nice profit. The other thing that I thought was pretty interesting is if you look at the observations, 253 out of 256 people actually participated and put their observations in. So only 3 people did not participate in the game. And what you can see here is that they end up being metadata that is stored in the NFT. So the comment is there as well as the coordinates with which the comment was placed. So interesting stuff. Certainly one of the unique mechanisms that Sam has put out there. Another thing that's kind of crazy is that Sam has a super rare drop with the super rare Genesis passes. They're going to be 3 1-of-1s. They're going to be dropped on August 31st. I didn't realize that, but I thought, given the provenance that he is creating, that's certainly a very cool perk. Very good timing for the rare pass Genesis over a super rare. If you want a chance at those, the 3 out of 256, more than a 1% chance of winning, you can see the rare passes are now kind of in that 70 ETH range, down substantially from where they've been. Of course, every time a drop happens, that's less future value that accrues to the Genesis pass holder. But 7 to 8 ETH for a pass right now to get a chance at a Sam Strat 1-of-1, and 3 of those are dropping soon. Third thing to talk about, not quite as positive a topic, I'll be honest, but the PEPE devs removed tokens from PEPE, moved them to centralized exchanges, presumably to sell them. Let's have a quick look at what happened. They lowered their multi-sig to just 2 signatures from 8 signatures being required after they withdrew PEPE. That makes future withdrawals much easier. They had a $25 million position. They lowered that to $10 million, so selling $15 million. And again, one thing that I think is interesting is many PEPE coins exist. It's just this one that happened to take off. So it was really kind of a pretty incredible thing for these devs. But I think that net, this has turned out to be a pretty negative outcome for the price because holders generally just don't want to be someone else's exit liquidity. So when someone takes the money that you've kind of invested into something, removes it from the ecosystem, and cashes out, that's never a good feeling for holders. And you saw a fair bit of selling as a result of that. Some people say that this shouldn't really matter because the meme is still the meme. And this is a meme that is certainly very core to the NFT, to the crypto, to the broader ecosystem that we're part of. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Here's the chart for market cap for PEPE, down about 18% over the past 24 hours on the back of this news, down to about a $370 million market cap. Again, Milady is a project that has generally benefited from the strength in altcoins, from the stake in meme coins. You had a little bit of weakness. I mean, meme coin Milady is still very, very strong. Floor price still at 4 ETH and tends to rally back very, very quickly these days. But that was one NFT that seemed to be a little bit connected to the meme coins that saw a little bit of weakness. And then lastly, let's talk about a few notable sales, starting off with this Trippy Fur Bored Ape Yacht Club sold for 87 ETH. I think at first, to someone who's followed this ecosystem for a while, 87 ETH feels like a very low price, but that's shit for a Trippy Fur, which used to sell in the 200, 300 ETH range. But again, with the floor down as much as it is, it's kind of holding that multiplier relative to floor. This is at a 3.5x or 3.5x premium to the floor for Bored Ape Yacht Club. If you look at kind of where those premiums have been throughout history, a lot of the Grail trades had serious premiums in the first few months of Bored Ape Yacht Club. Trippy Fur was trading at about a 6x premium to floor at that time, but much of 2022. So much of the world, even before Blur and before farming and before a lot of this contraction in Grail premiums, even in 2022, the median sales for Trippy Furs were around 2 to 2.5x floor. So I'd say this is kind of in the range that we have been in at 3.5x floor. You also saw a Spirit Azuki, which sold for 70 ETH. Again, Spirit Azukis also, especially males, were selling for over 200 ETH. just a few months ago. Obviously, everything has changed with the Azuki ecosystem, but with that 70 ETH, the seller, who is iced coffee here, decided he wanted to go out and just buy a bunch of floor Azukis. Here he's saying you'll be missed. It's in the hands of Pimp Capital. Pimp Capital is the ATM machine for Grail NFTs. I mean, he's just out there buying and vaulting and never selling so many different Grails. And Iced Coffee says work must be done to defend the floor, defend Azuki. And then he went out and bought a handful of floor Azukis. So all the money funneled right back into the floor. And we've seen some strength in the floor. It's gone up about 10% over the past 24 hours. In other one-of-one sales, this ByteGAN one-of-one by Pindar and Arman sold for 12 ETH. We've talked a lot about Pindar and Arman. Everything is entirely on chain. And he has a whole series of one-of-one ByteGANs. One has sold for 11.3 ETH. So a 12 ETH sale, certainly a nice sale for him. Congrats on that. And then this piece, the Conductor by BigComic, sold for 2.5 ETH. The buyer was Flying Beagle. Very cool piece. Again, got to see the animation because a bunch of steam kind of rises up in the image through the animation. And this is part of a broader Great Train robbery series by BigComic. Very, very cool art. Here are the other 5, and this is the 6th piece in that series. So congrats on that sale, and congrats to Flying Beagle on the purchase. That is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, give us a like. Tell us what you think in the comments. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back next Monday with another show, as we are just about every single weekday. Have a great weekend.